Hopefully you enjoyed part 1, where we take a look at how we solved that most important first clue, and part 2, where we take boots on the ground to where the treasure was buried. This is part 3, where we're going to go through all 9 clues of the poem. Their background for kind of clues 1 is going to be in that first video, but we'll kind of summarize it here, and then we're going to go through the whole poem. I'm not trying to convince anybody here what the truth is. I'm kind of presenting these as facts, and we'll see how that all turns out in the end, but I hope you enjoy this complete comprehensive solve, and let's get into it. Picking up where we left off in part 1, clue 1, where we had hint is of riches old and new, which was the 27 layers of forest in Yellowstone National Park on the Specimen Ridge in Lamar Valley. As you can see here, this is a petrified stump with a new tree growing on top. That's hints of riches old and new. Begin where warm waters halt. That's going to be at Soda Butte, where warm waters halted. Again, from the sign, only small amounts of water and hydrogen currently flowing from this once prolific spring. That's where warm water halted. So this is clues 2 through 5. Again, begin where the warm waters halt, which is at Soda Butte, and take it in the canyon down. Well, if you look here, this is Lamar Canyon, which you have to actually drive through or go through, which is actually right here on this map. So here's Soda Butte, and this is where you put in below the home of Brown. Not far, but too far to walk. At 10.8 miles, that is certainly true. And the home of Brown is the Lamar Ranger Station, where Ranger Brown lived. Now, if you look at it, here's where Lamar Ranger Station is here. So here to here, you'd have to cross a river to get to Specimen Ridge. So by starting in Soda Butte and putting him below the home of Brown, what you're doing is taking this part of Specimen Ridge out of the equation. So basically, it has to be down here where the bridge crosses the river, so you don't have to go across the river to get to where you're going. So it's very important that the home of Brown, which is capitalized, which is why I think it's a proper name, refers to the Lamar Station. Now, it could also mean, you know, all the buffalo that live here. This is the home of Brown too. It could be that at the bridge, you go where there's brown trout. But the fact that it's capitalized, I believe it is referring to the Lamar Ranger Station for the intense purpose, basically, of taking out this part of Specimen Ridge and focusing on where the treasure was buried. Clues 6 and 7 are found in this paragraph. From there's no place for the meek, the end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. Well, the paddle up the creek, so as you cross this bridge, this is where you put in below the home of Brown, and the first put in is Crystal Creek. So you go up this creek without a paddle, and that's the up creek without the paddle. Now the high water, I had done different thoughts. Maybe it was the Tower Fall, but actually there's a signpost that says, "Caution, high water, Specimen Ridge Trail cannot be hiked in its entirety." So the high water I had always thought was going to be Lamar River. Actually, when we took the hike, we found out that the ground was very mushy, and actually there was high water on the trail as you go up creek in the spring. There's a lot of high water in this area right here. It's very kind of marshy. So I believe that's what he meant by the water high and the paddle up the creek. Ever drawing nigh could be to the left, which this also is up to the left. And place for the meek, there was actually a Joe Meek that that was a trapper, and he was in the valley and he got attacked. And basically no place for the meek, no place in the valley. He had to hightail it out of there. But at the end, I think there's 2 clues here, which is up creek without a paddle, and the high water, which is actually in this area here. And then bringing it home, the last 2 clues, if you've been wise and found the blaze, we had talked about that, but a blaze is basically a tree without bark, which is the petrified stump. And then a little further down in the poem here, if you are brave and in the wood. So where I think that actually comes into play, and if you want to Terry Scant with Marvel Gaze, you can do that right here. So this is actually it. This is where you put in below the home of Brown. You go up this creek without a paddle. Then you have to go brave and into the wood. And if you're wise and find the blaze, if you look down quickly, so I'm assuming as you're coming up from the wood line, as you see the blaze, you'd look down quickly, which would be somewhere possibly in here, possibly in the woods. But then you can Terry Scant at the Marvel Gaze. So this is the view that he had been talking about. Just for fun, in case the blaze was something else, these are the end of trail blazes that you can see. So we did learn these before we go, just in case he marked, let's say, a tree that was in here with the end of trail sign. So maybe just being wise and knowing that this is an end of trail sign. But I believe more than likely this is the blaze. And then the treasure would have been buried, as I said, somewhere on this hill. It's hard to say exactly what the place is. And at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the finder and Forrest to say the specific place. I will note that around this corner here has ground very similar to the picture that showed the treasure chest that was found. So I actually have pictures of the ground, and it's got the pine cone, it's got the needles, it's got some of the grass. So it's very likely that the finder would have found the treasure here, probably parked himself somewhere along here to take the picture, and then he walked down. Now, I would also say the hike was strenuous, but certainly doable as far as doing 2 in 1 day. By coming up this direction, it wouldn't have been too strenuous. It probably would have been, you know, a little over a mile each time. So we got up in probably a little over an hour and back in probably a half. So it definitely fits all that criteria. Down here is about 6,200 feet. Up here is just over 7,000 feet. So definitely within the altitude requirements. So anyway, this is clues 8 and 9. Bringing it all together, here's the poem with the 9 clues listed. This is the final translation of the poem. So you're going to go to Specimen Ridge, or you're going to find the treasure on Specimen Ridge. You're going to start at Soda Butte. You're going to take it in the canyon down through the Lamar Canyon. You're going to go 10.8 miles, which is not far, but too far to walk. Below the Lamar Ranger Station is where you're going to put in, and you're going to go up Crystal Creek without a paddle. You're going to hit some high water, which is the Lamar River or the Muddy Trail in spring. Then you're going to be wise and find the blaze, which is a petrified stump. And you're going to enter the woodline from Crystal Creek to find the blaze. So up here is where you would go up creek without the paddle. You cross here to get brave in the wood. I believe the primary search area would have been here. This is that stump that we saw. The largest stump, or the most prominent one, is this one right here. So at first when I came there, I thought this would have been the area, but I believe this is just too much additional hike. So it makes much more sense that this is in the wood. This is the blaze you'd find, but I'd say anywhere in the yellow is probably where and this was my map before I left. So this is the primary search area. Could have been anywhere in the yellow, but I'm guessing in here. And that's basically your solve. The poem takes you to a very specific area and place. I had 5 days to do, you know, this is maybe a couple football fields worth of viewing. There's little doubt that if the treasure was hidden here, we would have found it when we came, and somebody did with this information. And I guess just to wrap it up, let's go back to what he said. I hope parents will take their children camping and hiking. Well, camping and hiking in Yellowstone, that makes a lot of sense. It's in the Rocky Mountains. I hope they will fish, which I think could be in the Lamar River. Look for fossils, which are petrified stumps. Turn over rotten logs to see what's under them, and look for my treasure. So based on this quote, I was going to go there with the idea that I'm going to be turning over rotten logs, which the rotten logs actually could be petrified wood, because basically you have this stump here, but this entire hillside was covered with petrified pieces of wood. So it's very possible that the rotten log he's referring to is actually petrified chunks of wood. But this here was what I feel most definitely the very specific way to find his treasure, as a hint in his quotes. This is the breakdown of the whole thing, and that's the whole solve. So there you have it. I hope all your friends' questions have now been answered. If you want to reach out and have any discussion on any of this, I'd be happy to do that. It was a lot of fun for the last couple months working on trying to prove myself wrong without much success. Getting to go out to Yellowstone, it was just an amazing trip. I hope everybody gets a chance to get out there. I think I am going to do a part 4 where I'm going to go into the background a little bit of, you know, before I went on the trip, what we did for the trip, maybe some of the plans that we had, if the treasure was found, which I think is kind of interesting. So we'll be looking for part 4 to come out at some point. Also, this is not the last treasure that I had solved. Since I got this one kind of figured out, I've been working on some other ones, and we have some more boots on the ground to hit the road on. So hopefully you stay tuned for that and enjoy the ride with us. Until then, we'll see you on the trail.